Alright, we got a new wheel horse project. This is a 310-8, so it's got the 8-speed high and low range. It's got the 3 forward gears, 1 reverse. This one's a little bit newer than the ones I usually mess with. However, it still has the side PTO. It has the front mule drive factory installed. It has the good cast iron rear end. It has manual lift. And it runs. It's a 10 horse Kohler Magnum. It does need a battery, but it does not drive. So when I looked at it, I noticed that the Keyway is not there. So I think first step is we're going to pull this wheel off and take a look at the hub. Alright, there's our hub. It looks like it's not broken. As you can see, that keyway is totally busted. So let's get this hub off of here. We got the puller on there. She's tensioned up pretty good. We're going to try adding some heat right to this outer edge of the hub. I got it all loaded up. Hopefully it decides to pop free and we can get her moving. Alright, it's working. Let's keep her going. Oh, that's hot. Woo! No wonder it came out. Alright, and there's our Keyway. You can see it looks to be, well, I think it's usable. There's definitely some damage from that set bolt spinning around, but I think this should be an easy fix. We also got some seals for $6 a piece that came in the mail. So while we're here, might as well get that done. It's been leaking pretty bad. So let's get this cleaned up and see what we're working with. Alright, well this probably wasn't the right way to remove the seal, but this is how I did it. I hammered a pick right into the middle of it and pried, and it just popped right out. Alright, and just like that, the new seal is in. So a lot of people were talking about getting a PVC pipe or something like that to help seat this. I probably should have filmed it. I don't have my tripod out here. But basically I just took my needle nose pliers and I just lightly tapped on the back. And that got it started. And then I finished it off just evening it out with a screwdriver, just very ever so carefully around the lip there. Alright, so we're gonna stop here for the night. I just tried to fit the Keyway into the slot there, and it's pretty chewed up on that edge. It's not wanting to seat in even with a hammer, so yeah, you guys can see that. So what I'm gonna have to do is just clean that up, probably with the angle grinder or something like that. Alright, we're back out here again. As you can see, our Keyway is in there, but looks like it's too tall. Yeah, that's all the way back as well. So I used the angle grinder and I just cleaned up this edge on both sides of the inside where the Keyway currently is. And even with that, I think that's just the wrong part. That's got to be for something else. Alright guys, that looks a lot better. So I guess parts tree was wrong. That was the first time I've used that. It was recommended to me for OEM parts. And as you can see, 1/4 inch by 1 That looks like the correct size. So let's put some grease on that and let's get it back together. Get this thing rolling. Alright, just got that loosely on there. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll probably just use the puller and just pull it back just a hair. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's where it should be. Okay, so now time to put in our set bolts. We had the mount completely removed here. Doesn't matter which side goes in which, just get them back in place. And we're basically going to tighten it down, and then there's a lock nut that's supposed to keep it where you put it. And I don't think that's going anywhere. I don't see any play back and forth. So now we should be good to put the tire back on. And I gotta grab a battery. We should be driving this thing. Alright, we definitely got lucky on that one. All the parts were mostly intact. Just had to get a Keyway. Alright, I just went ahead and installed the battery. That's locked in place. That ain't going anywhere. Put the connections on. Obviously this one's your positive, going down to the solenoid, then to the starter, and your negative to ground. So one thing I noticed here, there's a little bit of like a mouse nest or grass pile up under this cover. So let's get that pulled off and clean that out. Ooh. Yeah, you want to get that out of there. Otherwise you run the risk of overheating the top of the cylinder there. All the airflow comes up from the flywheel and it blows out the back. So let's get that cleaned out. I got the rear end oil draining. It's a nice chocolate milkshake. And we have the engine oil draining as well. The engine oil looked okay, but I just don't know what whoever had in it or how long it's been in there. So getting that changed out. Gonna do 530 because we're going into winter. And I got some 85 W140 for the rear end. And this is broken as well, so I might as well get a new gas cap. I think they're pretty cheap online. And I'll see if this strut is available as well. Alright, there's the engine oil drain plug. A little bit of Teflon tape to help that seal up without having to over torque it. the engine and the transmission both have a rusty spot, so this thing probably sat outside for a little while, unfortunately, but at least we're changing out this oil now. Alright, here's a day later. I decided to put the mower deck on. I haven't tried using it yet, so this is a new mower deck that I picked up recently. Never ran it before and never mowed with this tractor, so let's fire it up and see if it does anything. Alright, here we are a couple days later. I was going to try out the mower, and then the tractor decided to not start. And so not only did it not crank over, but I tried jumping the solenoid right there with a screwdriver, and it would crank, but it didn't catch. There was no spark. I know for a fact there's fuel. It has a full tank of fuel. Where I'm at now, basically my plan is to bypass all the safeties. So this tractor has a clutch safety. Presses a button when you push the clutch in. It has a seat safety right there, which I kind of already hacked into. It also has a PTO safety. You hear that click right there? That's another switch. So basically, I ended up getting it running, just messed with some stuff. And when I would go to engage the PTO, it would shut the tractor off. So that's definitely not supposed to do that, which probably means I have an issue with a different one of my safeties. I ain't trying to get into all that, take this whole tractor apart. We're going to do the easy thing. Hack into the back of the key switch, cut the factory wiring, and we're going to run power directly from the key to the starter solenoid. So that way, when you turn the key, it turns the motor over, just how it should be. And with the magneto, that's going to be the other line that we hack into. That's responsible for spark. So we're going to come down here, and it's one of these wires. I have a wiring diagram. So we'll bring power to there, to the key. So that way everything works like it's intended. Like how those work. Alright, we're back out here tonight, working on the wheel horse. I got some leaks in my pop tent, so I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get done, but basically where we're at is I pulled out the key switch and I used my multimeter to test the key switch, and all the functions work, but when you go from the start to the battery and you turn the key to start, it doesn't make contact. So that means this key switch is bad. It's pretty rusty already. So I have a new one coming in. We're going to be replacing the key switch, and then for good measure we're just going to bypass all the safeties anyway. Just turn this into a nice simple tractor, the way things should be. Alright, we got our new key switch in, and just testing it on the bench, we have power, or we have continuity to the start function when you turn the key. So this switch is working properly. Let's go ahead and get it installed in the tractor. These are my other tractors. This one is a Raider 10 that I swapped to a Magnum motor. And this is also a Raider 10 with the original Tecumseh motor. Both of these have zero safety features whatsoever. And so far, you need to be smart when you use them. Always shut the blades off before you get off. Always check if it's in neutral. As long as you do that, it should be alright. So it's going to be exactly the same on this one as the stock Raiders. Alright, we're back out here again. I should have showed, I think I forgot to film it, but basically the wiring diagram that I found online ended up being incorrect. So as a result, I wired it according to the key switch which I bought, which might not be the best way to do it. However, now I have voltage to the key. Previously, it was just completely dead because the battery in the schematic online was actually in a different position. The ignition and the battery were swapped for whatever reason on that drawing. So I think it was for an older motor. But anyway, we should be all back in business now. Let's get her fired up and do a little bit of yard cleanup. And just to give a little bit more context here about what I'm looking at, as far as doing this upgrade, you're going to tap into this blue wire, which is the white wire on the engine side. And so we follow this blue wire up. That is for our ignition on, which basically energizes the magneto. This other side, the top on our key switch, that's for the start function. So what we did is we cut this and we spliced in, and that purple comes down, and we're spliced in to our wire to our start. Alright, so that's basically my process for taking care of leaves in the backyard. The sweeper is a very important part. The plow is also important to push that pile back. And sometimes it helps if there are lots of smaller pieces, so sometimes helps to mow it down so that way you get a nice even sweep.